Welcome to the Better Bid Calling Podcast, a podcast designed with you in mind. Our goal is to make good auctioneers great and great auctioneers better through education and motivation. Join your host, champion auctioneer Joshua Houston, and his award-winning and industry-leading guests every month to learn insights and tips regarding the auction contest and the auction industry so you too can proudly say, sold! Well, welcome everyone back to the Better Bid Calling Podcast. I am Joshua Houston here today with a very special guest and a guy that I have been a fan of ever since I first saw some of those videos on YouTube of him competing in the WLAC. And then learning, Blake, that you are a car auctioneer. I don't know how long I went without knowing that you sold cars, but then I got to see you, some of those videos on for the WAC, and have been a huge fan of Blake McDaniel ever since. And I'm very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have you on today, Blake. Just kind of give us the rundown about where you are and what it is you do and kind of what daily life looks like for you.
Well, Josh, thank you so very much for having me on. And a real quick deal, congratulations on your reserve ringman deal at the Bluegrass.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Got to watch that. And, you were in some tight competition right there. So congratulations for that. I live in northern Mississippi. Was born in Alabama. Lived some of my life out in Texas. Come from an auction family. My father was an auctioneer. I never pursued it as a career, but in 1966, I decided to go to auction school in Nashville. He was about 13 years old and just really God-gifted talent. It was real natural for him. But my grandfather, he traded horses and cattle for a living. So my dad grew up in stockyards, just like I did. And it was something that was just, really, auctions are a culture, and our family was very deep in it. So God blessed me with knowing what I was going to do in life at an early age. And but we started out selling livestock, horses at first, and then moved, to cattle. And as I got a little older, I think I was 25 or 26, got into the cars. And everybody kept pushing, kind of at that time, man, you need to get in the cars. You need to get in the cars. And so I was living in Montgomery, Alabama. And there was a little one-lane car sale there. And I said, this is as good a place to start as any. So I went in there and asked the gentleman, hey, can I have a tryout? Nope, thank you for coming. So 2 or 3 months later, I roll my sleeves up. Here we go again. Let me sell one or two. If you don't like me, no problem. I'll shake your hand. I'll walk out. We'll be real good friends. I'll think about it, maybe. So this probably went on for a year. And at the time, I was still selling some horse sales and stuff like that. So, finally that day came when the stars lined up. One of his auctioneers was sick or something had happened, and he needed an extra hand that day. And he said, get up there and let's see what you got. So that was the first time I sold cars. He gave me a job after that. And boy, I thought, hey, I'll have 3 or 4 of these things in the next month or two. Took me 2 years to get another one. So it doesn't always just go snap, snap, snap. But God has truly blessed me and in so many ways through this industry. So I started selling cattle, sold at different barns, had a job in Montgomery for a long time, got to sell there in Montgomery with Jerry Etheridge and a great family, great barn. Got to go to the WLAC a few times. That was just, that was an out of the world experience for me, especially the first time. It was humbling, truly humbling. But from there, the car deal kind of got more and more. I started picking up more car sales, started branching out, working in Florida some, Atlanta. Schedule got really, really, really tight. And I was selling one cow sale a week there in Montgomery on Mondays. And it worked good because it was on Mondays. But eventually I had to give that up. I hated to. I'll always be at home at a stockyard. That's just kind of where I'm at home at. Love a car sale, and car sales have become an intricate part of my life. It's provided for my family for a long time, and I'm ever grateful to it. But my auction origins will always start at a livestock barn.
Yes, sir. Well, that's a very, very interesting story. And I say it's interesting because it's interesting to me to sit around and meet different guys who are so talented in the industry and who have such great success in the industry and just think, did you come from an auction family? More than half of them probably have. And
Mm-hmm.
then others, they're first generation auctioneers who just kind of learned the ropes and were self-taught for quite a while. And so you have a legacy then with auctions in your family, and that's a really special thing. My dad is an auctioneer; he's first generation auctioneer, and I fell into it with him. He was talking about the Ringman contest. He was a competitor against me,
I
and
seen that.
and
That's so cool.
it really was. He wasn't planning on it, but I convinced him to enter, and I hope he enters more. He's a talented auctioneer and he's a talented ringman, but just all that camaraderie, all that history, all those connections. Where did you go to auction school, Blake?
Well, my first teacher will always be my father.
Sure.
He went to working with me when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, just teaching me how to count money through a chant, and that progressed and progressed. But I went to Western College in Billings, Montana, graduated in 2004.
Okay. Now, you and I now have a mutual friend, and I met him just a few weeks ago in Oklahoma at their summer conference. But Jacob, oh, I can't think of his last name now. It starts with a B, and I'm going to mispronounce it. But I think he works a car sale with you, or at least
He
attends
does,
one.
Jacob. Yeah, he's an up and coming ring man,
Yeah.
auctioneer, really nice guy, super
Yep.
enthusiastic. He's been coming out to Tulsa and helping us out some. And I'm like you, I'm horrible with names. I mean, I'm bad with it. And in our profession, that's the worst thing to be.
Sure.
I admire guys that they could just look at you once and know your name and stuff.
Well,
But yeah, Jacob is a great guy.
it's Jacob Burley, and
Burley.
I had to look because I knew it started with a B, but I had to look at it. So Jacob, I know you listen to these. I'm very sorry for almost calling
Yeah,
you the
me
wrong
too,
name,
Jacob.
but so I bring that up though because you do sell a sale in Oklahoma. Is that correct?
I sell in Oklahoma actually twice a week.
Okay.
I sell there, yeah, at the same barn, and I sell there on Wednesdays and Fridays in Tulsa at Z. And absolutely awesome car sale. I invite anybody that if they're in the car business, wholesale car business, please, stop by. Some amazing people work there from the top to the bottom. It's awesome.
So I was actually talking to Jacob at the conference about you because you and auctioneers are this way, especially if you do a livestock market or a car sale where you're going to locations that have the inventory rather than the inventory being brought to you as like
Yes, sir.
a personal property guy or something like that, or real estate or something like that. So you are on the road probably more than any other person I have ever met. I would love
Well,
for you to just lay out your week for me.
I'm slowing down a little bit. I'm slowing down. The good Lord blessed me and my wife in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, with my first child, and it really changed my life. And it's a funny story how me and her met because we met through the auction world.
Oh,
You bet. And I'll get to that one in just a second. But I was doing 6 flights a week when we met, and I was working a lot in South Florida and in North Carolina. So I would get up on Monday and I would fly to North Carolina, do sales, then fly to South Florida, do sales. And then I got on with Z kind of, in the middle with that there in Tulsa. So at one point in time, it was North Carolina, Florida, and Oklahoma in a week. So, needless to say, I was coming, I was leaving on a Monday night and I was coming home on a late Friday night. And all I was getting to see my daughter Bella on Saturday and Sunday. And I did that for a year.
oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
now I've been traveling a lot in my entire life with this business, which was lucky for me. My father, although he wasn't an auctioneer, he didn't pursue that career. He had an advertising business, and it was agriculture related. And we traveled a lot when I was young, so I've kind of always been on the road. It's kind of always been home. But things change in your life. And like I said, my wife come along, my daughter, and my priorities had to get straight quick. And I just couldn't take that anymore. So the good Lord really blessed me with an opportunity to come sell in Memphis. And I live 90 miles away from Memphis.
Yeah.
And yeah, I worked for Dealers Auto Auction there, and I sell for one consigner, the Jackson family, and they've been awesome, and it's allowed me to get off the airplanes. So I no longer fly to work anymore, and I don't miss it one bit. I have to drive in between Tulsa and Memphis quite a bit. I'm on Tulsa on Wednesday, Thursday, Memphis, back to Tulsa. So I call it the I-40 blues, but
Right.
I'm only gone, 2 days out of the week. I'm home a lot more, and that's what counts. You get to a point in your life that your kids are only young one time. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell us the story about how you and your wife met, since y'all met through the auction deal. That'd be an interesting
this
thing
is
to
a
hear.
good one. So my wife's twin brother, he is a horse auctioneer. And he lived here in the town of New Albany, Mississippi. And her father owned the stockyard, the horse sale here in New Albany. And the horse sale here, they don't have it any longer. But for years and years, and I'm talking 40, 50 years, if you wanted to trade horses, New Albany, Mississippi was the place to go. My grandfather started trading horses here in the 1940s. My dad grew up trading horses here in the 50s, 60s, 70s. When I was a little boy, my grandfather brought me to the sales. So I knew my wife's brother and her dad through the horse auction and stuff. And so I hadn't talked to her brother in a long time, and he had moved out to Texas. And I was in Fort Lauderdale about to get on a plane. And out of the wild blue, he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I'm doing a sale now in Alabama." And he said, "I need some help. It's a really big sale. So can you come help me?" And I had stopped doing horse sales for probably 2, 3, 4 years, maybe long. And I said, "Man, I really don't know." I said, "That was a long night." I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Come on, come on." So I said, "All right, no problem. Ben's at you, definitely." And he is super talented, I mean, super talented. So I was just really wanting to go work with him. And like I tell everybody, work with guys that are better than you are.
Yes.
Work with guys that, hunt those guys down that are a million times better than you are to go work with, because you'll learn something. So we started working together. And I think the second sale we did, here comes mom and sis. And I said, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." So a few months later, we started dating, and the rest is kind of history. And so now, we've got a beautiful 3-year-old girl, and God's just truly blessed us,
Yes, sir.
truly blessed. And it's, the auction, the world is small in general. The auction world is really small in general. And so it was a pretty neat experience. Her brother knew my grandfather, knew my dad, who she never got to meet, and knew him through the sale and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
that's
pretty cool.
special. That's really special. Well, Blake, you, as we mentioned, you travel and have a history of traveling quite a bit. And I suppose that since you're glad about it, I'll be glad about it with you, that things are slowing down a little bit as far as travel is
You bet.
concerned. But um, I think people who are getting into the industry, especially those who are trying to work either car or livestock, um, maybe others. I mean, I do a little bit. I've never done a car sale, so a little bit of farm equipment, heavy equipment, things like that, but never at a lane sale or anything like that. At least in Tennessee, I think the rule is that you have to have an automobile auctioneer's license to sell cars at a lane sale or at a dealer sale or something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
No, that's only to the general public. If
Okay.
you're calling the bid to the general public on an automobile, like a personal property sale that somebody had their car they wanted to sell or something like that,
Right.
then you do. But if you're selling at just a wholesale dealer auction, all you need is a Tennessee auctioneer license.
Right. And that's because the dealer or the venue would hold the dealer
Holds a
license. Is that
right,
correct?
holds their gallery license or
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
that
Right.
bill is. Yeah.
Well, I live in Tennessee. I'm right here in Murfreesboro in the geographic center of Tennessee. I love Tennessee, been here my whole life. But the auction laws in Tennessee, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but they can get confusing pretty quick.
They can. They can.
And that's just Tennessee. Other places, I'm sure, are more confusing. I know Pennsylvania is crazy with some of their licensing laws and things like that too. So.
Well, like North Carolina, I worked there for a long time, and if you sell a dealer car sale, you don't have to have a license.
Oh, really?
At all. No, you do not have to have a license. Now, if you sell a public auction, to the general public, you do have to have a license. Now I haven't worked there in a year or so nobody take that, please check with your state associations, and stuff on the laws and everything. But
and rules change every day.
You bet.
Yeah. So keep up with it. All that to say, we went about halfway around the world to get next door, but all that to say, with your traveling and going from state to state and all this, when new guys or young guys or novice guys are trying to get in the business, I don't think they realize how much windshield time they're going to have. For me, I work primarily for a company that's about an hour away from where I live. And I do contract work with people all over the state of Tennessee. And I've sold some out of state, given the requirements that allow me to do that. But you have a lot of windshield time. So as someone who has had that windshield time, been on the plane a lot, what is some advice or some tips that you might give somebody who's breaking out in the industry and going to have a lot of that windshield time, just about travel in general, ways to make it a little bit easier on yourself whenever you're doing it all the time?
Right. Well, you've definitely got to manage, some of your time with that. And it's, when you've got a schedule that you're hopping 2-3 flights a week, or you're having to get in the car and you're driving to 2 or 3, 4 sales like that. The big thing of it is keep your mind going. I know it's easy to throw the radio on and, let the miles go. But, and like I tell everybody else in the auction business, man, have a side gig. Have something else going on. So a lot of the time, when you're traveling and stuff, when I'm on the phone doing other things. But the big deal of not getting burned out on the road is take care of yourself, and brother, I have been at points in life where I haven't, my schedule was so crazy one time, and I tell this story, and it's not a bragging story. It's a wake up call story. I came into a hotel. It was 6-7 o'clock, and it was just kind of the part of the day to where you don't know if it's afternoon or night. Laid down, slept about 40 minutes, jumped up, and I had no clue if I was waking up, going to sleep, if I was supposed to be in Orlando on the auction block or Atlanta. And I said, Blake, this won't work, buddy. And so, getting in bed early, trying to eat good, and it's hard out there. It is really, really hard. You get tired of the fast food hamburgers and all that type of stuff, but just, manage the road the best you can. Don't let it manage you. And on all those young guys out there that are aspiring to, to get out there and live that kind of lifestyle, do it, and do it while you're young. Because when you get older, it's not fun anymore. Right. You want to be close to home, and you want your sales to be within, a decent driving distance. You don't want to have to hop on those planes and, go here and there. And if you don't believe me, ask James Benton Pendleton, your current world automobile auctioneering champion. That guy, I blame him for all this. I told him at the car contest, I said, man, I saw a YouTube video of this dude who was hitting jet airplanes and flying here and there and doing auctions. I said, man, that's pretty cool. I want to do that. And I said, it's all your fault, dude. I said, now be careful what you ask for in life. Yes. You might get it. But yeah, big thing is manage your time, manage yourself, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, because it changing, like me, I change climates all the time. And you have to fight the colds. You have to fight, getting sick and this, that, and the other. And there's not a lot of off days for us. We work sick or well, rain or shine. And you can take off a little, but you can't take off much in the car business. And in fact, I think that goes with any auctioneer job. But that's the best advice I can give for those guys. Just take care of yourself.
Yeah. There was a time about 2 years ago, I guess, maybe going on 2.5 now, where my wife and I will celebrate our 5-year anniversary in November. So this was about 2 years after we got married. I went from being 185 pounds to being 250 pounds. And I was selling auctions, preaching full time, doing school full time, have home life and all that. And I decided something's got to change. I got to lose this weight and get healthy. Lost about 60, 70 pounds, something like that. And that was the year that I won Mule Day, the Mule Day contest. Now, I'm not saying that weight loss won me the contest, but I will say it for dang sure didn't hurt because
That's
I
right.
felt I felt energetic at the end of the day. I had the energy to go and do it. My breathing was better.
You bet.
And you know, you could so take care of yourself is something that we try to stress on this channel, on these podcasts. We had a whole episode with Paul Ramirez a couple of
You bet.
months
Great
ago.
episode.
Yeah, thank you. He's really to be credited for that, man.
Paul's a great guy.
He and Michael and Brogno had the idea of bringing him on and letting him talk about his experience and take care of yourself. Along those lines, I think it's a good idea too for these aspiring auctioneers or these guys getting started to have what I call your go bag. And like, so when I go to a sale, it doesn't matter what sale I'm going to. I've got allergy medicine because my allergies are
Mm-hmm.
absolutely awful. I take allergy
Right.
medicine every day, but I've got allergy medicine, um, a bottle of lukewarm water, um, just a change of socks in case I'm working a farm equipment sale and my feet get wet, just something
Right.
like that. Just the things that you're going to need. And if you don't have them, you're going to be in a bind.
You bet. I used to carry airborne, when I was on airplanes a lot, and
Mhm.
flu season would come around, airborne, but anything you can do to just try to stay healthy, that's the big drinking a lot of water, just staying hydrated, properly
Yeah.
hydrated. And I'm the world's worst. Anybody that knows me well knows I've got a Mountain Dew in my hand about 95% of the time. So,
Hmm.
just try to have good habits. Try to have good habits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's switch gears here, Blake, and talk a little
Sure.
bit about your competition days because a
Oh,
lot of
goodness.
guys, a lot of guys who watch this do compete or want to compete. And the question I get most, we get messages sent to the Better Bid Calling page on Facebook almost every day. And they're from people who have just gotten their auctioneer's license. They're working as either apprentices or they're trying to learn the ropes, develop their chant. And they're like, I know competition will make me better. I want to compete, but I don't want to go embarrass myself. And so
Mhm.
that's really what the Better Bid Calling thing is all about, is teaching guys how to just get started. So, what was the first competition you ever competed in?
First competition I ever competed in was, and back then they had quarterfinals for the WLAC,
They still
and
do,
it was
right?
in yeah. Now I think it's they had four then, it's three now, if I'm not
Yes, sir.
mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And so I was selling a little cow sale in Natural Bridge, Alabama, and my sister she was after me to do it because I was always watching it on TV and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So they were having a quarterfinal in Glasgow, Kentucky, and I signed up for it, and I got the sheet of who was going to be in it, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be fun, and it was who's who. I mean, just
Yes, sir.
real hand. So I went up there and I drew real late in the day, and they had a tent outside, and everybody was back there, and that's where you have fun at a contest, is meeting everybody and making
Yes, sir.
those relationships and that stuff. So got to meet a lot of guys that I'd seen on TV, before and stuff like that. So it was my time to go. And to be honest with you, I was like, let's do this. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to be all tore up if I don't make it. I'm just glad to be able to go and compete today.
Mm-hmm.
I had no desire that it was ever going to do anything. So got up there, sold. And that year, Charlie Cummings, and he's one of my heroes. That
Yes.
guy is he's fabulous. He's the real deal. And Charlie was the champ. And you get up there, you're full of nerves, packed house. And Charlie was hey, take a look over to your right, take a look over to your left, just kind of helped you get through it. And I still commend him that day because I was shaking like a leaf on a tree, but got it done. And he comes out and he says, in no particular order, here's your top eight, because back then they took eight from each one. And he got down to the last name. I'm heading for the door, saying, "Well, guys, it's been fun. It's time to go to Ruby Tuesdays or Applebee's or something. I'm hungry."
Right.
And he called my name. And buddy, that's still probably one of my favorite moments competing. And I've had some really good moments. God's blessed me, but that one was just a thrill. And
Yes, sir.
then the reality that, hey, I've got to go to California and compete in the world now. And that reality hit me, and I was like, whoa, here we go. So, and I had a great experience with that. Went to Turlock, California, competed at the World, didn't make the finals. It was all good. It was a great experience. But that was my first go around.
Right. What about with the auction, with the World Auto Auction Championship?
That happened. That was in 2012 when I went to Turlock. In 13, they actually hosted the livestock deal in Montgomery, and I was living there, and some things come up, and my schedule didn't make so I could go to a quarterfinal. So I was out of the whole deal that year. I was just going to get to sit and watch. And the automobile championship was in Waco, Texas. And I had just started picking up a couple of car sales, and I said, "Hey, let's do it. Let's try it out." So went there and knew a couple of guys from back home that were competing there also. But for the most part, I was a new kid in town. Didn't know anybody. Didn't even know, any of the ringmen to get a ringman to help me with my runs. And found one. Mike still helped me out. And I was so lucky to get eighth in that contest. And I was just umped by it, truly. But definitely knew I wanted to come back. So I did both of them. I did the WLAC and the WAC for probably about 5 years, together. And then I stopped competing in the WLAC. Oh, goodness, probably it was the year,
It
trying to
hadn't
think, I
been
think it
that
was
long
16
ago.
or 17. Yeah, I think it was 16 or 17. It was the year Brian, won it and everything. And that was, it was hosted in Billings, and I'd always wanted to sell in Billings, and got to do that, and said, "Hey, this is a great stopping point for me." And I wasn't, selling cattle any longer. And, so the road had moved to cars, and I just said, "Okay, if I'm going to do a car contest, let's just do that one." And so that's kind of where, where that started, and just doing full time, centering on the car contest, every year. And I've had a lot of fun with it. Been blessed with it. Been truly blessed with it.
Sure. I did a WLAC quarterfinal well, I guess it was back in January. I went to Windsor, Missouri, and did that. And you talk about a contest. They had somewhere around 48, 50 contestants. It was the biggest quarterfinal that they had in the history of the WLAC. And this is my first time competing in a WLAC contest. I'd done a livestock contest once before. There were about, I don't know, 8 people that competed, and I was fortunate enough to win. That was the very first contest I had ever done, and I was very humbled by that, but excited at the same time. But anyways, went up there to Windsor, and you talk about the who's who.
I'm
Jacob
sorry, my
Matt.
mom's got bad time and calling. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. But yeah, Jacob Massey was there, and he wound up winning it this year, of course.
You bet.
Jacob's a good friend, and Brennan Jack was there. Michael Imbrogno was there. I mean, it was the list of who's who, and got the scorecards back and saw the placings, and I wound up being right smack in the middle of the pack. I thought, you know what, that's pretty doggone good for a first timer. And my run was awful. I don't mind telling you, it was absolutely horrendous. I hope they find it and burn it on the internet.
We've
But
all got them. Hey, we've
it was
all
bad.
got them, man.
Oh yeah.
I promise you, I've had a lot more of those than I've had those good ones where
Oh,
all the stars
absolutely.
worked out. You just got to learn from every time you get up there with it, and we're not doing what we do every day. And
Right.
that's something I try to tell, guys that are going into competitive auctioneering is understand what you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go get a job out here, you're tackling that in a different situation than you are trying to take a panel of 10 judges who
Mm-hmm.
all have different mindsets
Mm-hmm.
and a criteria that they are saying, okay, we're going to judge you on. it's a totally different deal.
It
Totally,
is.
totally different deal. And you have to sell to those judges. You have to sell to those, to that crowd.
Mhm.
And it's a different animal, totally different animal.
Now, Blake, do you know Sean Hagler? Have you met him?
Oh, I do very well.
I figured you did. Sean was at the Battle of the Bluegrass this past weekend, and Sean's a friend, and we were talking, and he said something that it just really stuck with me. And I think as far as competing goes, it's really, really good advice. He said, if you come to a contest because you want the buckle, you need to go home.
That's
And
right.
it's not that you don't want to win, but it's we come to contests because we network, we get to
Mhm.
meet people, we get to see people who are better than us, and we get to help people that we are better than. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It's just, like take for example the bluegrass, they have a junior contest. Well, there's
Mhm.
kids in it that are 13 years old who are knock down, drag out, fantastic guys, but they need somebody to look up to. They need someone to encourage them and say, "Hey, man, that was awesome," And you have an
You bet.
opportunity to do that. If you're not willing to make somebody else better, you're just hurting yourself. I firmly,
Yeah.
firmly believe that.
You, you're 100% right. And when guys, I've been in contests before where I was in there with some of my heroes.
Sure.
I mean, these were guys that I looked up to,
Mm-hmm.
and really studied them. And to be in, that deal and to have them to sit down and to talk to you, to share some advice with you, that's what you go compete for.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, it's the friendships, the people that you meet. We all want to win. There's not an auctioneer, I think, that enters a contest that hasn't sat back one day in his life and dreamed about that name getting called out.
Right.
You know, of course we have. We all want to win, but we only know that, at the end of the day, there's going to be one guy that's going to win,
Sure.
and there's going to be the rest of us that we're not. So the just the really the relationships, and yourself being through a contest, you're going through an emotional roller coaster. It's a ride going to one of these things,
Yes, sir.
you know. And I really liked what you said in the David Whitaker interview about how you're being judged from the get go,
Yes.
and you're 100% right. And especially in contests that are like, the WLAC, to where that you're at a convention, you've got an interview portion,
Mm-hmm.
you're around the entire industry. That contest starts the moment you pull up there and step out of the car and go to shaking hands.
Yep.
That's when the contest starts. But it can be a real fun ride if you let it be.
Sure.
That's what I tell everybody, man. Just keep it fun, put your heart in the right place, and the chips will fall where they may.
Absolutely. Well, to talk about David for just a minute, he was one of the judges for the Battle of the Bluegrass, and he came up to me after the Ringman contest, which we did the preliminary. We had the junior contest, preliminary round bid calling, finals bid calling, and then the Ringman. Well, I was obviously in the preliminary round, and fortunate enough to make it to the finals. Had done the finals, and now had to go do the Ringman. And Ringman contests take a lot of energy,
A
and
lot of energy.
he came up to me. He said, "You need to go back and look at yourself on the live stream." I said, "Why? Did I look stupid?" He said, "You did not smile one single time. You looked like you wanted to kill somebody." And I went back and looked, and I was like, "Man, he was right." But I was tired by that point. It makes a long, long day. A lot of fun, but a lot of energy being put forth in those
Competing,
contests.
in the WAC, they have three different categories there that you can compete in. They've got the ringman, they've got the auctioneer, and they got the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've never competed as a ringman, but I've had to sell for guys that were doing their ringman run before. And you have to sell for one or two guys, and then you do your run, then you do your team's run. And by the end of the day, you've worked a little bit in that suit.
Yes,
And
and
you
they
have to,
always
and I tell everybody, save something for the finals. If you
yes.
if you get there, you save something.
Yep. And talking about those suits, I don't know what it is about these contests. They have them in the hottest places on earth.
Brother, I have been in some barns before that, I mean, it was bad. It was
Yeah.
really bad. And I'm
Yeah.
like, can't we do this in the spring or a little cooler weather? Yeah. I'm a heavier guy. I'm a big boy. And you get a big boy in that suit and I go to sweating and everything. So but yeah, and that's another element of the pressure that you're
Yeah.
at a contest because you're not in your comfort zone.
Right.
You're completely out of your comfort zone. And I tell young auctioneers and guys that, want to compete or guys that don't want to compete, put yourself out of that comfort zone. It makes
Yes.
you better.
Yes.
Put yourself in those high stress situations because you'll learn something when you come out from under it.
Yep. I was going back to our conversation earlier about going to Oklahoma and doing their summer conference. I was very fortunate to be a judge for that contest and to speak at their convention that next day. And the topic that I spoke about was, I call it crossing auction categories. So how do you go from being a livestock auctioneer one day to being asked to sell a benefit sale for the local high school, or vice
Right.
versa or whatever. And a lot of times, if someone calls and says, I need you to sell this benefit sale for the football team, and all you sell is cattle, 3 times a week, unfortunately, a lot of times we just hang up the phone and say, no, I can't do it. Like, well,
Right.
get out of your comfort zone. Go
You
try.
bet.
And if you wind up making a mistake or whatever, laugh it off and move right on.
Learn
But
from it. You bet. Learn from
absolutely.
it. And that's something during my career I've always tried to keep myself open.
Mm-hmm.
To selling cattle is not selling cars. It
Yes.
is a completely different animal. Selling horses is not selling, personal property or, whatever, or benefit options. They all have their own little niche. And if you haven't done it before, try it. Try it out.
Sure.
Put yourself in a situation that you can learn from your own mistakes in life sometimes,
Right.
and you'll come out a lot better on the end of it.
It just goes back to what you said earlier. Find someone who knows more than you and learn from them.
You
If you've
bet.
never done
You bet.
anything before, sure.
You
Well,
bet.
Blake, let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Well, I
you're
was just
fine.
saying, if you've never done a benefit auction or something, call somebody. There's so many people out there in our industry that's willing to share information. If you've never done a cow sale before and you got an opportunity, hey, maybe to go on the block, sell at your local cattle auction, talk to somebody. Talk to some of these guys. They will help you.
Yep. Yep. Well, Blake, I've got about 8 or so questions. We do these at the end of every podcast. I just called rapid fire questions. You shared with me earlier that you listen to some of these podcasts, and so you know what they are, and you've heard everybody else's answer. But I say almost every episode, I love asking these questions because they are the same questions. They're usually given in the same order, but I get different answers every time, and I love
Right.
it. So let's start with the first one here. What is the weirdest item you have ever sold?
This was the one that has really bothered me the most because, some guys have sold some just out there stuff before, and I haven't. Probably the weirdest thing, maybe a midget calf at a cow sale or
Yeah.
a llama, or, I've sold a couple of high dollar goats once or twice before,
Yeah.
but that's about the weirdest, that we've ever got out there, so haven't done any weird stuff before. No airplanes or lots of Elvis's hair or anything like that. So.
I sold a livestock market in Etheridge, Tennessee before they sold the market there. And I would go and my wife would ask me when I got home, well, how'd the sale go? I say, well, it's all right. And she'd say, well, what'd you have today? What'd you sell? Because we sell, some cows, usually sheep and goats and a bunch of caged animals. And I remember one day I came home and I said, well, we sold some parakeets and hedgehogs today. So that you never know what you're going to get.
You never know sometimes. That's right.
Well, Blake, out of all the items that you have sold, all the products that you have sold, is there one that sticks out that's just your favorite to talk about when people ask you about what you do for a living?
You know, probably the biggest thing, and it's current in my career. It's something that hasn't happened years ago. A good friend of mine, auctioneer and ringman named Chris Elliott. Chris, he won the Ringman World at the WAC before, and works for Meekum Auctions and this, that, and the other. But mine and Chris's family are very close. My grandfather and his grandfather grew up together, traded horses. Back to that horse thing, you know. So Chris come into the business, you know, and he had a dream about doing a horse sale, and his family is really big into the walking horse deal.
Hmm.
And it goes back 50 years. That family is just, that's what they do. You know, that's what his dad does for a living. So he wanted to have a yearling sale there in Shelbyville. And so when he first got in the auction business, he would, you know, would talk to me about that. And I said, hey, man, go do it. You know, I help you any way I can help you. And so we broke a world record back year before last with the highest dollar Tennessee walking horse yearling ever offered at public auction, brought 106,000.
Wow.
And yeah, and it shattered everything that had been done. The next year, the sister to that same colt, a filly, does 80,000. That was a world
Wow.
record for a filly. And just to see that Chris's hard work,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, and when I tell you running a sale is tough, it's tough. I'm a contract auctioneer. I plug in, I do my thing, I get you all I can get you, you know. But when you're the guy running that deal, you know, it's hard. And to see the, you know, all of the work that young man did, and to take a dream basically and
Mm-hmm.
turn it into a reality and shatter world records while doing it, I was just very honored and humbled to be a part of it. So that's probably the coolest thing that you know, I've done recently.
Well, let me ask, what sale was that?
That is the Stars of the Future sale in Shelbyville. It's during the celebration. In
Okay.
fact, our third year is coming up, hey, we would love for you to come out. It's on Friday, September the 1st.
Hey, well,
And you,
I live in Shelbyville,
well,
so
then Pleasant
that's why
Valley
I was
Farm,
asking. I
my
was like,
friend. We're going to start about 9 o'clock in the morning. Please come visit us. And we've got a great staff there. Chris has really put together some of the best ringmen in the country, in my opinion.
awesome.
We've got Blake Ferguson that's working with us. Blake does a lot of thoroughbred stuff. Barrett Jackson guy.
Hmm.
We've got this year. We've got Cody Dozier coming.
Wow.
He works, you know, some really premium events and stuff. In fact, him and Kyle Myers just broke a world record on a quarter horse sale they did here the other day, and had a quarter horse do 2.5 million or something like that.
Woo!
And
Wow.
yeah, and we've got world champion Dallas Massey. He's going to be there. You know, we've got a really good crew. Adam Johnson. I'm
Oh
sure you
yeah,
know Adam.
very
Adam's going to
well.
be there. He's the hometown boy. Everybody loves Adam. But Chris is just, you know, he's put together a great crew. We'd love for you to come out, please. I'll put you to work.
Man, I will at least drive by and say hi. That sounds like a
Please do.
blast.
Please do. Come
Yeah,
see us. Come
would
see
love
us.
to. Well, let's move on to the next question then, Blake. In your auction chants are made up of numbers and filler words. So what's your favorite filler word?
Well, most of what I do is a compressed B, is what I call it. And it's a lot of bid. Would you bid? You know, I would bid. And it's just compressed into a B sound. That's
Mm-hmm.
about the simplest way I can break down my chant.
Yep.
You know, it's just a
Cool.
lot of compression. And, you know, and I think that less is more. That's
Yes.
just my opinion. You know, where I think that guys get hung up on it is that they're paying too much attention to filler and not enough attention to tone and rhythm.
Right.
Tone and rhythm is the hardest part of the auction chant, in my opinion, for people to get. Some guys, it clicks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take a guy like Brandon Neely.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's got just great tone, great rhythm. He's natural at it. Some
Yes.
guys have to work on tone and rhythm, you know.
Right.
So, it doesn't matter really. Don't get hung up on filler. Find a filler that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more, in my opinion, you know, and just work on that tone and rhythm. And it needs to be, you know, something that you're communicating with, but it also needs to be pleasant to listen to.
Yeah. I did a TikTok, which I'm not a TikToker at all. I just recently downloaded the app. I've gone for a long time without it, but I started putting some tips and stuff on TikTok, and I said, your favorite filler word now and forevermore is thousand and million. So if you're using those, you're having a good day.
You're having a good time. That's right.
You bet.
That's right.
You bet.
I've never crossed the $1 million mark. Maybe one day, but not yet. I was laughing with Kyle Myers, and he was talking about selling, a horse for, $2 million. And I told him, I said, Kyle, I would have just got up there and messed that all up. I said, and he didn't. He just laid into it perfectly, And
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, if you're using that, you're having fun.
You bet. Blake, who is an auctioneer that you love to listen to?
Oh goodness, man, that's a list that's 18 miles long.
Well,
I mean,
sure.
there's
Give
bunches
us
of
a
them, and
couple.
I break them down into categories because I think that the cow guys are different than the car guys.
Sure.
And the horse guys are different than the car and the cow guys. Just on my short list with cattle auctioneers, Charlie Cummins is up there at the top. I can listen to Charlie sing all day. That guy's he's awesome. Matt Lowry, of course, Matt's got, that big deep Nebraskan chant there that
Mm-hmm.
everybody's tried to imitate at least, 3 or 4 times in their life, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Ralph Wade, of course, horse auctioneers, Justin Holmberg. He's a Cadillac. That guy can just sit back and, he can sell like a Cadillac. Mr. Don Green, he doesn't sell anymore, but a big time
Right.
hero of mine. He's definitely the master. Steve Friskup, another great horse auctioneer. My brother-in-law, Blake Thompson, I have to give credit, out there, Blake's great to listen to. Car auctioneers, there's another whole list right there. Shane Ratliff, of course.
Sure.
Shane's amazing. Ben DeBrule, there's a guy that's truly unique, truly just, nobody does, has that sound just like Ben does. Heath Sprackland. He's, an amazing auctioneer. Casey Enlow. If you want to hear a real deal car auctioneer, go listen to Casey. Casey's the real McCoy. He can sell my cars any day of the week. He's good. He is good.
Yep.
But that's just kind of a short list. Of course, John Nichols and, guys
Sure.
like that who can sell a car or $1 million piece of property, make it look just as easy can be, of course, all of those guys are great, but that's kind of my short list.
Yeah. Well, I think this is really interesting for our listeners because it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how many awards you win. You always have somebody else that you listen to and that you take notes from. And I think that's true for all of us. The IEC champions, the WAC champions, the WLAC champions, they all have people that they look up to and listen to too. So you never get to a point where you quit learning from people.
No, you don't. And guys that, come to me and talk to me, how do I get better with my chant and this, that, and the other? Listen to other guys. Be careful with, it's great. Imitation is a great form of flattery.
Sure.
But at the same time, be yourself.
Yes.
Find something that works for you. Like I said, everybody's, imitated Matt or tried to imitate Charlie or this one or that one. And we all kind of pick, parts of, the chant out or whatever from each auctioneer that we like. But at the end of the day, make it your own. Make it your own. Put your own signature to it. And if you'll do that, you'll be great.
I tell people when I teach auction school, auction chants are like thumbprints. No two are alike.
That's
no
right.
two are alike. And you can have some that are pretty similar, but they're all different. Well,
all a little bit different.
Blake, what is one piece of advice that you would give a novice auctioneer?
That's a good one. I think the biggest thing in this industry for guys or ladies who are who are looking to make this a career, that they need to understand that the road is it can be very long at times. That sometimes doors don't swing open when we want them to. You might go to auctioneering school with somebody and your buddy over there's got 4 or 5 jobs within a year of the time he gets out of school and you don't be discouraged. If this is really what you want, if it's in your heart, if you love it, if you want it, then, set your feet on that path and stay on it. Don't get discouraged. and learn every day. It doesn't matter how far you get in this business. It doesn't matter if you're selling for the biggest, auction companies in the world on the biggest stages in the world. You stay humble and you learn every time you step up there. And through my career, I've been blessed that I've learned a lot from other auctioneers. I've learned tons from ringmen. Ringmen have been some of my biggest educators. And working with some of the guys I've been blessed to work with, they've taught me a lot, a whole
Yes.
lot. And I think that's definitely something that we need in the business. We need to push more. And I think that the COVID deal, it really hurt ringmen across the country when live auctions couldn't come around. You're starting to see that dynamic change. And we really need a next generation of good ringmen. There needs to be, there's a good presence of auctioneers out there for that next generation. We need a good presence of guys that enjoy working that ring and want to learn that art too.
Yeah. And to plug him one more time, he's not paying me to say this, but our buddy Sean Hagler does have a ringman school. He travels the country and does that. And guys, it's phenomenal. I know people who have gone to it. And of course, Sean is a friend of ours. And I couldn't imagine a better teacher to teach how to be a good ringman. And so if you're interested in that, and also if you're an auctioneer, the best auctioneers are really good ringmen. And you learn a whole lot by working that ring and learning people and just learning how you learn how to, it's interpersonal communication. That's all being a ringman is. Well, Blake, one final thing before we get off here, and it's my favorite one to ask, and that is, would you mind selling something for us?
Okay. Well, all right. Cars, cattle, horses. Which one do you want to do? I'll give you,
Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. Your imaginary sale.
Car sale. Okay. I do more of those probably than anything. All right, guys. Alpha 6 2016 model selling the green light drive. Did you get $25,000? How about a bit 20? $5 here. I'll give you $15,000 deals on 15 250. How about a bit 5 here? 7 high. I get to be $16,000. Get 2.5. I'll get a bit 5 here. Get a bit 17. How about a bit $17,000? 250. I'm 5. How about a bit 17 5 here? 7 high. I get to be $18,000. 250. I'm 5. 7 I have 19,000. Yeah, Josh. Whoop 19. Now I get to be 19. All in done. Now 2 and 5. Whoop 19 5. All in done. Get a bit 5 here. Put them at 5. 7 high. Make it $20,000 now. Hit 20. Then you do it. Now 20 half, sell 19,750.
All right. I love it, man. I love it. I love listening to everybody else. When we have people on, man, I love getting them to sell something. It shows, first of all, what we said already. No two chants are the same. Right. But it also shows, back to your point earlier about your favorite filler words and less is more. You said a lot without saying a lot in your filler words. And as people listen to your chant and other people's chants, and we learn how to break down chants and build our own, that's something that's really, really good to take with us. So with that, guys, I want to thank Blake for being on today. Blake, it's been an honor and a privilege, seriously, to meet you, at least somewhat face-to-face. We've chatted some on Facebook, and like I said at the beginning, been a huge fan for a long time. And Lord willing, we'll see you. Well, Lord willing, we'll see you in a couple of weeks in Chebyville. I hope to get by and at least shake your hand and say hi. And with that, guys, always be sure to like and share this video. And if you're listening on Spotify, be sure to like and share it there as well. Keep up with us. We've got some great guests coming on here in the future, and looking forward to how this thing is growing. And I've just been real blessed and humbled by how much this has taken off. So appreciate that, Blake. Appreciate you. And I hope that you have a very blessed rest of your day, man.
Thank you so much, Josh. You too, my friend.
All right. We'll see everyone. You've been listening to the Better Bid Calling podcast. If you would like to sponsor an episode, please contact us at betterbidcalling@gmail.com.